The Forest Keepers, a real-life horror tale from the Middle Atlas Mountains. In the mysterious depths of the Moroccan Middle Atlas Mountains, lies a forest known to the locals as, the Forest of Death. For generations, villagers have whispered tales of strange occurrences, shadowy figures, and eerie noises. Some who ventured into the woods returned shaken, while others, never came back. This is the chilling tale of Omar and his cousins, Hamid and Hassan, who decided to test the boundaries of curiosity and courage. The haunting begins. The trio ventured into the forest armed with flashlights, a tent, and a playful attitude. As they delved deeper, the atmosphere shifted. The cheerful chirping of birds faded, replaced by an oppressive silence. The forest seemed alive, with the towering cedar trees closing in around them. Despite the growing unease, they laughed nervously and set up camp. When they started to gather wood for their fire, Hamid stumbled upon something horrifying, a pair of muddy shoes sticking out from under a bush. Someone left these here. Hamid wondered aloud. But as he pulled them free, his heart froze. The shoes were still attached to feet. Skeletal and decayed, the remains seemed to be from someone who had died long ago, yet no signs of animals disturbing the body were evident. They dropped the shoes and ran back to their camp, unsettled but not ready to admit fear. "It's just some old remains," Hassan said, trying to keep the group calm. But deep down, they all felt it, something was watching them. The shadows in the trees. As night fell, the forest's stillness became suffocating. Around the campfire, they tried to distract themselves with jokes, but their laughter was cut short by an unnatural rustling in the trees above. Looking up, their flashlights illuminated a horrifying sight, figures crouched on the branches like predators, their glowing eyes fixed on the boys. "Omar, what the hell is that?" whispered Hamid, his voice trembling. The figures didn't move, but their gaze followed the boys' every motion. They seemed human, but their limbs were too long, their faces too distorted. Hassan, always the bold one, yelled, "Leave us alone." But instead of retreating, the figures tilted their heads in unison, like they were mocking him. The group huddled together, whispering prayers under their breath, when suddenly one of the creatures dropped to the ground with a sickening thud. It stood upright, its pale skin glistening under the faint moonlight. Without a word, it began walking toward them, its footsteps unnaturally loud against the forest floor. The voices of the lost. The boys grabbed their flashlights and ran blindly into the woods. The forest seemed endless, twisting and turning as if trying to trap them. Then they heard it, the whispers. Low and guttural, the voices surrounded them, growing louder with every step. "You shouldn't have come. Leave while you still can. Join us, forever." The whispers sounded like they were coming from all directions, and soon, Omar realized they weren't alone. Around them were shadowy forms, barely visible through the mist. Some appeared to be people, women and children, their faces contorted in silent screams. Others were inhuman, grotesque creatures with twisted limbs and hollow eyes. One of the figures reached out, its skeletal hand grazing Omar's arm. He screamed as an icy pain shot through his body, and when he looked down, his skin was covered in frost-like marks. The Cabin of Despair. After what felt like hours of running, the trio stumbled upon an old, decrepit cabin. With no other options, they burst inside and slammed the door shut. The air was thick with the smell of rot, and the wooden walls were covered in strange symbols drawn in what looked like blood. A mirror in the corner caught Omar's attention. At first, it reflected the room normally, but then, it changed. The boys' reflections were replaced by horrifying images, Hamid's face melting, Hassan's body twisted and broken, and Omar himself staring back with empty sockets where his eyes should have been. Suddenly, the door flew open, and the shadowy figures from the forest poured in. The boys screamed, but the creatures didn't attack. Instead, they surrounded them, chanting in an ancient language. The sound grew louder and louder, drowning out the boys' cries, until everything went black. The breaking dawn. Omar awoke to sunlight streaming through the cabin's broken windows. His cousins were lying nearby, unconscious but alive. The symbols on the walls were gone, replaced by deep scratches as if something had tried to claw its way out. They stumbled back to the village, where the elders listened to their story with grim faces. "You crossed into their world," one elder explained. "The keepers of the forest don't forgive trespassers." Yo!